One is the library, one is the town hall. And I would have thought it would be reasonably simple to say, if you take the council's preferred option, and you do that, this is what it'll cost, even though it's residential urban, but you know, let's gloss over that. How much ink would it have taken to say, and this is what it means if you don't, if you support the cheapest option? This is a statement that could be made very easily, probably still be edited in because it's not controversial or anything. I can't believe that an auditor would worry about it. And people get to see, we are in a recession. You are proposing...
The question being?
The question is, why can't you offer the 5-year horizon? In terms of the chart on page 51, so that people can get a better idea of what their decisions in this plan, where it'll take them.
I can answer it in two parts. The first is page 51 chart is primarily designed to explain next year's rates change. So the difference between 23-24 and 24-25. And there's three things going on. There's the council's rating, revenue and financing policy changes, and the allocation of the rates across properties differs slightly. The policy differs. There's an increase in the budget that the council needs from rates, and that's 10.6%, but that's split differently depending on where you are, urban and rural. And there is revaluations that each property has just received. We'll be using those new values to apply the rates, and depending on where they are to the average change, they may pay more or pay less than they were last year because of the valuation change. So that is explained in that table to come to an overall change percentage for a number of example properties. So for the 3 million town hall option, the extra rates that will be required to fund the borrowing to do that option is spelled out in the document. Creating another column in a table, I think will confuse things. If we're focusing on 1 year to the next in that table, that's enough information. The information about the cost impact of each of the options is in the options analysis.
So, I'm allowed to just tease it out a bit further.
Rob, you've got a question.
If for instance, you took the cheapest option for the town hall, by my reckoning, years 6 to 10, that degenerates towards 10, you would be posting a negative rate rise, in which case we would be reducing the rates, which is...
You're wrong. Simple as that.
No?
No, the years 6 to 10 rates rises are driven by inflation, pretty much. There are no additional level of service projects in those years to push the rates beyond the level of inflation that we've allowed for in our operating costs. So those are annual increases per year. The increases that are driven by the town hall project are happening in years 2, 3, and 4, and so they're part of the 6 and 7% increases in those years. So once it's increased,
operational increase.
The increase is there, and it stays there. It's not increasing additionally because of that project in the following years.
But what's that sum? It's about 2 million, isn't it?
What sum?
The operational increase from doing those wider house.
So the preferred option, it's 3.2 million additional operating costs.
Per year.
Yes, ongoing, but the rate increase is happening in years 2, 3 and 4, and that's the only years that it increases the rates. it stays at that level.
Yes, but David, if you didn't do it, you surely take that amount of operational expenditure off, and it lowers the rates, especially in the years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, forever, or for as long as the project lasts. If you reduce your operating expenditure by that amount, am I misunderstanding that?
We'll just get Councillor Johnson.
Firstly, it wouldn't reduce it by that amount because you'd still be operating rent premises in Queen Street, for example, and customer services, which are actually moved, and you'd still have operating costs for civil defence, which would have to be somewhere as well. And the other thing is you quoted that it was 40% increase over 5 years. It's actually 35.7, which there is quite a difference.
No.
4.3.
I'm sorry, if you compound it.
And also, on each topic, there is the lesser option, and it says the impact on rates. For instance, if you demolish the town hall, the impact on rates is $21 more per annum, and with CBD, there's no additional impact on rates if you just do the maintenance required. So I believe that all the information is there, and I don't think your figures are quite accurate, Councillor.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Hunt?
Just one question, and I'll follow up the discussion. I wondered with regards to Henley Lake and Memorial Lake, who came up with the idea of potentially being a wetland? I just wanted to know, did we employ Bottomless Core, or was it council officers, or who did that?
I'm not sure if anybody came up with the idea. It's just, and since I've been here, that's been a conversation, that point that comes up. It's to do with the reality of if you reduce the water intake into the space, one of the likely outcomes, if you have some water going in there, but not on the level, is that might be an outcome.
So we didn't employ anybody
No.
to do it? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, Councillor.
I'll bring that up for discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin?
Sorry, just a very quick question of David Paris. David, can you tell us, just in response to Bex's comment, if you take those 5 years of rates increases, do you just add them up arithmetically or compound them together? One gives you 35 point something, the other gives you, the number I use, over 40%. Could you tell which way is the correct way? Because I'm convinced you have to compound.
Compounding is the correct way to look at this beginning point to the end point.
Yeah,
so the number grows.
Yeah.
It will grow at a different rate depending on what property we're looking at as well. So every property's rates increase is different, but the maths requires a compounding formula.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just point out that on page 44, we do have the rates percentage increases very clearly spelled out there, and it goes from 10.6 to 8.4 to 7, 6.6, 5.3, 6.2, 1.9, 1.4, 1.9, 1.3, and 2. So that's very clearly spelled out there.
The difference is when you compound.
Sorry.
Can you do that in your head?
There's still the figures that are there, Councillor, I think. Okay, we've finished questions. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 137, 138. Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Bowyer. Discussion. Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, so in this document, which I'm not going to support, the key page is this one here. What will it cost?
What page?
Page 44 and 45. In this, the chart we've been talking about, the bar graph over here, I think Councillor Goodwin has made some incredibly important points, and they're about compounding interest. And I've asked at least twice to have a 5-year mark recorded in this document, and also for a table to appear, and it's not there. I noticed the correction's been made about the 10-year rates going from 43 to 53%, which is correct. And in that, the 10-year does include those last 5 years, which is seemingly meaningless when they're 1.2, and it talks about how much ambiguity there is around those in this explanation here. when we look at the rates rises, compounding, year one it's 10.6%. Year two, it's then going to be 18%. Year three, it's going to be 26%. Year four, it's going to be 32%. And year five, it's going to be 41%. So Councillor Goodwin is right. I've done these calculations many times. I would like to have seen here so people could see the compounding impact of these rate rises. If you're a person, for example, paying $6,000 water rates, compounding 41%, that's $8,200. That's an increase of about $45 per week. It's just so much money, and it's almost, I feel, unaffordable for lots of people in our community. I've asked for it to be in there. It's not in there. I'm not going to support this. This is such an important part of this document, and we've missed out a key piece of information that would have a heavy amount of influence, I believe, in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I would point out that we did bring that up, and other councillors, there were more councillors who didn't want you to get that. So that's democracy.
We don't vote in workshops. I asked for it as a councillor. I asked for it as a councillor to be in there. There have been changes since the audits by going and changing it from 43% to 53%. It wouldn't have been that hard, and we shouldn't be voting in workshops anyway, to put that table in there.
Not voting workshops. Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Hutch.
Just to follow up about Henley Lake, I'm aware that we discussion.
Yeah.
I'm aware of the problem we've got with a backing water race, Henley Lake and Memorial Lake with regards to a consent. Now, having been on the fly tour, which sort of sets the limits of how much water can be taken out of rivers, I clearly remember putting in, as a member of that group, putting in the whip that the Henley Lake and Memorial Lake should be a non-consumptive take. And I know it's going to cost a lot of time and everything, but I think we really need to get in with Greater Wellington and push that forward, because I don't know anybody that wants Henley Lake and Memorial Lake to be a wetland. So I just would like it known that we must push this non-consumptive take, because that was in the whip.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? No further discussion on the Councillor Helena.
I made a few notes to try and keep me on point. I've been trying to read them, and they're a bit messy, so I might not be so much on point. But the first point I'd like to make is I want to acknowledge all the work by staff that's gone into preparing the long-term plan and preparing the consultation documentation. And in particular, Karen, you and your team, David Paris, everyone knows how hard you work in your team. So, there's been lots of demands. What would this look like? What would that look like? And it's hugely appreciated. And also, Matt, you and your team, the consultation document, in my view, the layout, the presentation, the ease of reading it, it's a very user-friendly document, and I think it's clearly one of the better documents I've seen come out of council. So to all of those teams, I just want to acknowledge and thank you for your work. However, like Councillor Nelson, I'm not going to support the adoption of this document. For me, the purpose of consultation is to get the best possible feedback, the most accurate feedback we can from our community. And if we value consultation, we'll give them as much information as they need to give us that quality feedback. And I think we've missed the boat in a couple of spaces. A large majority of the document I fully support, and I think it's great. But there's some key pieces missing, some of which have been mentioned already, and I think they're crucial for the community to give us their personal judgments and feedback on what they really think. And if they don't fully understand the financials, for example, we're possibly getting some misguided feedback and making our judgments or using that feedback to inform our decisions. And for me, that's not good enough. So a couple of examples, a few of those examples have been raised already, but you know, I think there's some of the language that's been used will lead people to think a certain thing, which might not be the case. And I go back to my arguments I presented last week and the week before around the use of terms like fit for purpose. If we're going to use a term like fit for purpose, we then need to say because A, B and C. If we don't, we're just leading people with a value judgment. I think there's spaces in this document where the preferred options, the points for and against are listed, but in the area of changes to services, my recollection of council discussions well before our long-term plan consultation document meetings around cutting some of those services was one around affordability of rates, and the other one was because we didn't feel the community were getting good bang for their buck or getting good return on the investments we were putting into those spaces. For example, WEDs. Now that point's not even listed as one of the reasons why this is the preferred option. And again, that was raised previously. And I think that missing information, and one or two other examples I can cite, is going to be detrimental to us getting good quality feedback from our community. I'll go down to what's behind the rates rises. It's a great diagram, very clear, but not to include personnel costs there, for me, is a lack of transparency the community will pick up on and be concerned about. We should be putting in that there because it's a significant cost of our rates. Similarly, and this for me is a little bit misleading, the year 6 to 10, the rates rises. Yes, I know they're based on the local government price index or LGCCI, whatever it's called. But whenever have we had a less than 2% rates rise? And we've got less than 2% for 4 years and then 2% for 5. How realistic is that? And if we're using that information to tally up the growth in rates over 10 years, to me it's actually misrepresenting probably what's going to be the reality. Now I know we can't predict what it's going to be accurately now, but I guarantee you, and I'll put $100 on the table to anyone who wants to take the bet, that it's not less than 2% for 4 of those 5 years. The other thing is, I don't want to undermine the intellect of our community, but we're using percentage changes in a lot of cases. And in the first 5 years of the rates rises is probably the most accurate in my view in terms of being able to predict what they're going to look like. And when we look at the percentage increases, you know, probably if I couldn't do percentages well in my head, I'd be thinking, oh, that's not too bad, it's only 6% or 7%. But when we accumulate that over the first 5 years of the plan, that's a significant amount in terms of actual dollars for every household. I think we should have that there as well. Why? Because I think the community needs to know the true costs of this long-term plan, which will then allow them to be in a better position to decide on what's really important and what do we think should be valued, and which one of these projects or initiatives do we think will support or won't support. And if they don't have a good, clear understanding of the dollars and what those dollars mean, then we're not getting the quality feedback we're seeking, assuming we actually value the process of consultation. If we do, we've got to give them every piece of information they need to make good judgments. I guess the final reason for me is, and I know we live in rush times and we've got tight time frames, but I think a lot of the discussions we're having here we could have sorted if we'd given ourselves a little bit more time to have these discussions. In essence, we got the first draft of this long-term plan. we gave feedback. Council members responsible for adjusting the feedback went into the second draft, but for some of us, the second draft still wasn't presenting enough information, or the right information. But we were told categorically, can be no more changes. To me, that's poor process, and I will challenge anything that we, going forward, anything that we do in that manner, or any decisions we're expected to decide on in that manner, I'll be voting against it, because for me, we need to have good processes determining our decisions, and in this case, I don't think that's happening. Interesting to me, point 4 on the recommendation here, because of the audit, we cannot change anything categorically. Point 4 on this recommendation says, will we approve the CE being able to change things? So yeah, just a little bit worried, or wonder a little bit about the consistency here. So 2 things to finish off on. I applaud the work of council. It is a large number of that document fantastic. And I applaud the great amount of work that's gone into getting us to this point. But I cannot support it because it's not giving enough information to the community, in my view, for them to make good quality feedback, so then we can make good decisions based on their feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lau. Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, this is a document on swings and roundabouts, and there are some good and some not so good. And the classic to me, at the beginning of it, is the library. About 12 months ago, I think it was, we got the Community Views Survey. Biggest and most in-depth survey we do on this sort of thing. And the highest scoring council activity at 83%, that I recall, was the library. People love it more than anything else we're doing. And yet, the same building, it's no longer fit for purpose. Now that whole first paragraph, to me, is just superfluous and should be taken out. Yes, the next paragraph says it has a range of maintenance issues that need to be addressed urgently. I don't have a problem with that. And one of the options, 2.3 million from memory, is to do exactly those options. But please, and I just can't believe the auditor would worry about this, Kim, I would ask you to just take that first paragraph out in the interest of not trying to mislead people. And yeah, I too think that we went through this a bit. I don't want to re-litigate it in June, but one of the big costs of council is personnel. And in 2021 year, up until 1st of July year, there's a just over 40% increase in the cost of personnel. I think it should be put down on paper. Don't shy away from it. It's people sort of get to know it anyway. So that's my request, Kim, is to take out that first paragraph from the library and just take some of the sales pitch away from this, because the public are very happy with that as it is. And I realise there's a whole lot of staff who've seen the one in Christchurch and elsewhere and in New York. And it would be wonderful to have a lovely new library, but our people aren't that rich and times are tough. And we've got to be a wee bit careful what we're going to commit for.
Councillor Nelson and Councillor Thompson.
Just following on from Councillor Helena's points about years 6 to 10, I just did some quick mathematics. Taking the lowest rates increase in the next 5 years of 5.3%, that would lead to after 10 years an 83% increase in rates. That's the lowest in the next 5 years, taking the average, which is 7.14, that would lead to over 10 years of 99% in rates increases. That's looking at realistic figures, I believe.
Councillor Johnson? Oh, no, Councillor, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm quite happy with the wording of no longer fit for purpose for the library, because you can't use the basement, you can't get upstairs, there's no disabled access, and it leaks. So I would say it's not fit for purpose for anything.
Thank you. David, do you want to say something?
I just responding to Councillor Nelson. Your suggestion is that the years 6 to 10 are unrealistic in terms of the projected rates increases. If the council's asset management plans and your projects that you want to deliver across the 10 years were changed, and you put in some new projects in those years, the level of services would increase, the rates would increase, and you'd deliver more in the community. At the moment, those things aren't in that plan. They might well be when in 5 years' time, the next council decides on what it goes into the next plan. So at the moment, they're not in the plan. So to project or postulate that they will be there it's not in the plan at the moment. So I don't see how you can speculate that 90% increases of rates are going to happen when that's not what the plan says.
I would stake my reputation that those rates will be more than what I'm talking about. I understand the point you're making, but when have we had rates increases of about 1.2%, 1%, 2%, 2%? I know those rates increases.
Yeah, we did during COVID. Did during COVID, actually.
Because we flared the rates.
I think it's actually covered also though on page 45 where it talks about rates percentage increases. And it says that the rates increases in the graph above added together, this equates to a cumulative average increase of 53.5% over the 10 years of this plan.
My point
But
is...
we can't predict the future, and I didn't bring my crystal ball today.
Well, someone's predicting the future when they talk about how much inaccuracies there will be around years 6 to 10, but years 1 to 5, that's what we're counting on based on projects.
Any further discussion? I'd just like to make a few points from my own point of view. I think this is an outstanding document, and I really do congratulate the staff in particular on the job you've done. It's been a long process, and I think you've come up with an outstanding document. And all the time I've been on council, this would be the clearest, most concise annual plan, long-term plan documentation that I've seen. And reading through it, and I've read through it about half a dozen times, sure there are questions, but there are always been, it's like reading to me it's like reading a book. You finish a book and you think, oh, if they'd only said that, or if they'd only done that. But somewhere along the line you have to come up with a finished product, and I think the finished product we've got is outstanding. I think it's very easy for me to recommend that it be passed here today. I don't have any problem whatsoever. I do understand the questions which have been asked about certain aspects of it. But as I say, I think there's always going to be questions. And I believe that the general public are going to understand very clearly what this is about. I don't think that as I've said before, I don't think I've seen a clearer or more concise document to go out to the public. And you're never going to get it perfect, but I'll tell you what, I think our staff have done a magnificent job to get it as near perfect as they can. I think too that, the one comment I would make about projections, you're going on about projections 1 to 10 years. I don't actually believe, in my mind, that we can project what's going to happen next year or the year after that. It only takes a Cyclone Gabrielle or some sort of earthquake or whatever, and suddenly your projections are thrown apart. It also could be that we don't do some of the major projects, so the rates will actually come down further. So all those figures are assumptions, and I don't think that we should be making decisions on assumptions. I think we should be looking at where we are now. So I'm strongly in favour of adopting this consultation document. I believe it's an excellent job, and I congratulate the staff. And I also, if I could, I'd like to congratulate you councillors, because it isn't easy And I do understand that some of you aren't going to probably vote for it because you're not happy. But I believe in my heart of hearts that this is as good as we could get. And that's what I said. Councillor Goodwin.
Can I just ask a quick question of the CE? You heard my request for you to take out that first paragraph about the no longer fit for purpose. And
Councillor Goodwin will see if how this recommendation goes, because it's in there, and if it's passed, it means that most of the councillors agree with it.
but it's going to influence my vote. We've given a delegation to the CE. Forgive me, I've got to ask, what do you think? Would you take it out?
Yeah, so really the process would be, because the delegation's not to me yet until it's passed. So at that point, whether or not it's material enough to pull out, I mean, I'll have to check whether that's something that we can do through just sentences.
The delegations are usually around mine if it's like typos.
Like this sort of thing.
This is that's just a minor edit.
Little paragraph.
Okay. Councillor Stewart, Councillor Lynn.
Just, is Councillor Goodwin referring to the 83% satisfaction survey? Just, we need to clarify that. Is that towards the service of the library or the building? Because you're saying
Public
the
service.
building, but I believe the 83% feedback was towards the service.
Public satisfaction with the library, which is a building with some staff.
Was it actually towards the building, the result, or was it to the
It
actual
was called the
service?
library. And the
What was
library is
it?
a big structure.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, could I have clarification
Well,
from
look up
somebody
the-
here today?
Look, I'll tell you.
Was the
that-
83% towards the building, which we deem not fit for purpose, or the service of the library?
It was the service.
It's just like when they ask the surveys, they don't break it down to the building, the books and the service, or the water, the
It's
pipes
two
and the
different things
staff.
though, Councillor
It's-
Goodwin. There's the building that we're saying isn't fit for purpose, given the mould, the leaks, it's not well accessible with people in wheelchairs, etc. Or the service that our staff and the library gives to our community. They're two very different things.
No, they're all encompassed in the one question.
What is the
If you read it,
question?
they're very
What is the
bad.
question then? Can we have clarity from the council
Well,
staff?
I
what the
look, I
question
haven't got it
is?
on me, but
Okay, we
why
made-
don't you trust me that it does encompass the
Councillor
whole of the library?
Thank you.
I don't have the wording of the question here, so it's a user satisfaction survey, so its intent is to gauge the satisfaction, whether we're talking about a park or a library, or their satisfaction with the service. How people interpret that question is something which I would not push into, because people will interpret that in different ways. But the intent of the question is about their satisfaction with the service, however they view that.
Councillor Joe, sorry, do you want to say something? No. Okay, Councillor Lena, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say on the fit for purpose, I'm comfortable with fit for purpose, provided there's an explanation in there. There's not.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, I'm willing to move the recommendations on page 1 through 7. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bowyer. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? I'll have a show of hands. All those in favour, please put your hand up.
Division,
In favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Motion is passed.
I called it a division.
There's always a division.
Yeah.
So
I called one so that it's recorded in names, but it is
Yeah.
division.
All right, there's 3 against.
4.
Three.
3.
Three.
Was it?
Yeah.
With that.
See, I told you your numbers are wrong.
So
Always wrong.
one,
Do you change your vote mix?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, folks. And can I just again, I don't want to harp on it, this has been a really difficult process, but we've got through it. Now we have to go out to the public and to talk to them. And I hope that all councillors will be part of that discussion. It's going to be an interesting discussion. There's a lot of things to consult. There's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to consult. We tend to be talking a lot about the library and the town hall on this, but when you look at this document, there's a lot of other things in there too, like fees and charges and grants and all sorts of things, which I'm sure we're going to get some comment on. But a big thanks to staff for the work you guys have done. I really, really do appreciate it. Okay, we go now to page 100, to page, let's try and find it now. To page 326, local water done well. And Maz. If you'd like to come up there, Maz, that would be great, thanks. It's page 326, guys.
Thank you. Is it okay to assume that the paper has been read? All right. So we're just looking to seek agreement that the memorandum of understanding looking into the water services delivery for Masterton District Council be signed.
Excuse me.
I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thanks, Councillor Brady.
Naz, thank you very much for your report. Just want really a personal thing from yourself. Do you think this memorandum of understanding has sufficient off-ramps for us as a council if we are not happy with this process going forward?
I think the memorandum of understanding that will be signed by Kim, assuming it is endorsed today, will reflect sufficient off-ramps.
Councillor Hart.
I'm actually, I agree with the memorandum of understanding. But there's one query I've got is that, is the Wairaka, at the end of the day, are we going to get our share of money if we need it? Because we're so small and willing, so thanks to the population. It's the only concern I have about it.
Would you like me to comment?
Yeah, Councillor, so that part of this next phase is a discovery phase through this MOU to make sure that the Wairaka has good representation, particularly Masterton, which is what I'll be there for to attend. So it's important that we get the right representation in whatever model it might be, that we have the correct investment put back into our community, that we have a satellite hub here. So there's a lot that we need to work through to make sure that the decision that we come up with is the right one. So.
Any further questions from Anne? Right, there are the recommendations on page 326. You'll notice in number 4 that we're looking to appoint a council elected representative on the advisory oversight group. I'm willing to, anybody willing to put on it? David? Yep. So in number 4, we will be appointing Councillor Holmes as our representative on the advisory oversight group. Somebody prepared to move that recommendation? Move Councillor Tudor, seconded Councillor Varga. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you, Mayor. Page 337, which is a further amendment to the meeting schedule for 2024. Karen?
Thank you. This is a fairly straightforward report. Just looking to change our upcoming meeting schedule for the next 6 months. We're essentially swapping the audit and risk date on the 7th of August and the council meeting on the 14th of August. We're also proposing to start the Infrastructure and Services Committee meeting at 9:30 instead of the usual 3.
Any questions? Somebody prepared to read the recommendation? Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Tudor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. We then move to page 339, was an update to the elected member allowances and expenses reimbursement policy 2022-2028, and it's David Harris.
It's just some slight amendments to the policy to keep it compliant with the Remuneration Authority's requirements and the publishing of this policy on the Council's website, so it is transparent. So the recommendation is simply to adopt what's there.
Any questions from Dave? Yes, Councillor Lena?
Yeah, just a quick question. Is it mandatory to adopt the change, the recommendation?
It's mandatory that the council adopts any changes to the remuneration policy for reimbursement of costs. The remuneration authority is the one who sets the honorarium or remuneration payments. So this is only about how much you allocate for reimbursement of phone and home broadband and vehicle mileage allowances, although they do recommend the rate per kilometre in their policy.
Just for costs.
So this is just the reimbursement for costs, yes.
Any further questions? Somebody prepared to move that we adopt that allowances and extension? Moved by Councillor Tudor, seconded by Councillor Helena. Any further discussion? Put the motion, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Page 350, establishment of an MTC Disability Advisory Group. Forrest.
And a vote will be Kelsey.
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. I'll take the small paper as read. So we've had strong support from the disability sector in the wider community for the establishment of a Masterton District Disability Advisory Group. And we're wanting approval of process documents, which are also on the paper, the terms of reference and expression of interest. I'll take questions.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Holmes?
Great idea. It's just, I think there's one organisation I know, I'm well aware of, and I think they need to be invited to, is like services. And equivalent for any of those other. You only need one person to come from each organisation, but I think it would be appropriate to invite them to come forward.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Tudor?
Thank you, Kelsey. Could you tell me how, is it budgeted for?
Is it what, sorry?
Budgeted for?
Yes, yeah. So you'll see under the financial consideration
Councillor Goodwin?
I just wondered if you could just look up in the records, the DPA, I think we used to call it, and the various organisations that connected into it. And that's something presented to council once a year, and I thought it was very good. But yeah, there's quite a few.
Thank you. If I could just explain here too, I was very much involved in getting this going. I attended a meeting of a number of the disability groups, and it was very clear there that whilst they really appreciated the support they were getting from us, they did feel that they were being missed out on some of the conversations regarding accessibility and issues like that around town. And there was a strong push for a group like this to be formed. The idea being that it would be like the Rural Advisory Group, and groups like that meet 3 or 4 times a year. I'm particularly keen to be part of it because I think this is an extremely group of people that we've probably been a little bit lax in getting support from in the past. And this gives us an opportunity to hear from them over any issues they have. So I'd like to actually, if there's no further questions, I'd like to move those recommendations. I will second it. Seconded Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Nelson.
I think society should be judged on how we look after our most vulnerable, and this is a really good example of doing the right thing. And I think it's a time when the current government has removed those services around disability, which is absolutely appalling, that we're doing the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I should have mentioned that. You did right. That's a really sad point. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we go to page 360, the review of the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw 2019. Ladies, Arnie, Steph.
I'd like to take the report as read. It's just providing information about the upcoming review of the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw and seeking your agreement today to delegate to the Wairarapa Policy Working Group to support that review and to share costs among the 3 councils in line with the shared services policy. So this bylaw is one that regulates a broad range of council activities or areas, and the review process approach timelines are outlined in the report, and then following the process of the report. And if there's any questions, happy to take those.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? Councillor Bogan.
Yes, thank you very much for your report. Just wondering under financial considerations, if you could explain a bit more how we came up that we're paying 52%.
So that's on our shared services policy, I believe it is a...
You could just speak up a bit, Steve. Sorry, it's very hard.
So in our shared services policy, I believe that one is based on population, so it takes into account that Masterton is a larger population and the benefits more from the having the bylaw in place.
Okay, Councillor Goodman.
My concern, I don't know who should answer this, is with the wastewater and water supply. I presume this doesn't get renewed, doesn't get looked at for another 3 years? Also, 10. We're going into, it's come up in our various conversations, it's been going on for 12 years in this council, on wastewater laterals, private, and some issues around them, and also water laterals, private property. And it certainly, it looks like it's covered in here to me from what I saw. I heard from staff that there are all sorts of problems with that, with those issues. It's something council, I get a very strong feeling council is very shy of it, and I simply would like to find out if places like Auckland, I mean, there must be lots of places who have solved this problem, or maybe come up with just a few extra tools in the kit to make it a bit easier for council to make sure the stormwater is not going down the wastewater or whatever. There's a host of issues there. I can remember this coming up in 2012, the council's kicked it down the road. I would just like to make sure we've got the best tools in there we can to address those two issues of private water in and water out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as part of the review process, we will be meeting with staff as well to understand some of the forms and nature of the problems and understand if the bylaw is the most appropriate tool to address that. And then we can certainly look to other council examples and learn from experience.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move the recommendations on page 360. Moved by Councillor Helena, seconded by Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Okay, we go. Thank you, Steph. We go. Are you here? You did this one as well?
I think I am, yes.
Page 365, the MDC delegation register.
Great. So this report is seeking your approval of an updated delegation register, really to support efficient decision making. So there's 4 parts to the register, and we have proposed amendments to Part A and Part B. Part A covers the delegations that you make to the Chief Executive, and Part B covers statutory delegations under the Local Government Rating Act and the Resource Management Act. Those are the 2 acts where the powers can't be sub-delegated to the Chief Executive. The main updates to these are to reflect that we have a new executive leadership team in place, so there have been changes to role titles and reporting lines as a result of that process. So we need to make sure the delegation register is up to date. We've also proposed an amendment to broaden the current COVID-19 lockdown emergency delegation, just to extend that in recognition that there are other large-scale emergencies, events that could impact the ability of council to meet. So just to make sure we're covering ourselves in those situations. And some other very minor amendments, I believe, to delegations and the officers who undertake those duties. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Steph on this one? Councillor Goodman?
I might ask for a bit of help from Con Haynes, because one of our committees, whose name escapes me, we've increased by a large amount the number of contestable fundings by that body. And I just wondered, I did see very recently something about maybe it's better to look at that in June than now, depending on what our decisions are. Does that make any sense?
There was a discussion, councillor, as we were looking at the process about whether it happened at the time of the LTP or whether it formed part of the normal grants round, which runs through July, and then the Water Grants Committee meets in September. As I recall in the discussion, where council fell was that it would be better in that space around the standard grants procedure with that meeting in September. So that's currently...
You suggested we could invite more members on, full council if you wanted.
You're referring to the email this morning.
Yes,
so
yes.
Just making the point that the Awards and Grants Committee, if they make the decision. So if there was, I think you were asking the question about council having visibility of those decisions. So there would be one way of doing that would be to potentially alter the composition of the committee, to have all the council on the committee if that was the desire to do that.
Be now while we're talking about it, or can we do it June if we want it?
That could happen at any point in time, council.
That's fine.
Okay, any further questions? Yeah, Tom, no, councillor Lena, sorry.
Just a little bit confused. So, and this is, I'm a bit new to this, so just really a question around gaining understanding. So, on page, your document 367, proposed amendments to the register are outlined below. Part A and B amendments. So, proposed updates to reflect the new executive leadership team structure. Is that linked to a delegation, or is that just updating the delegation's register? What does that mean?
Yeah, so individual officers, particularly through our delegations register, you'll see it throughout these sort of tables for the Resource Management Local Government Rating Act. It lists specific titles of who is able to perform those duties, and as a result of the new EIT structure, there was a change in title name. So, for example, Karen went from General Manager, Strategy Governance to Strategy and Development.
Okay, somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 365, councillor Holmes, seconded by councillor Goodwin. Any further discussion? No further discussion, put the recommendations, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much, Steph.
Thank you.
We now go to page 417, the Marai Development Fund Assessment Group, and Leanne.
So the Marai Development Fund Assessment Group paper.
Leanne, you're no, could you speak up? I'm sorry, it is difficult to hear sometimes. Old ears makes it difficult.
The building's not fit for purpose.
Like everyone else, I'm assuming you've read it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So previous year's funding decisions were made by members of the EB Governance Forum, which is no longer active. So this paper is really about appointing a new group and terms of reference for that group.
Thank you. Okay, questions for Leanne? Yes, Councillor Bogan?
Leanne, thank you for your report. This is, I don't know if I've been under a rock or whatever, but this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
Oh, it's been around.
Yeah. This is just surprising it hasn't come up in previous discussions around council. So it has been part of our long-term policy.
And it hasn't been, funding hasn't been given out for 2 years, I think.
So, no,
Yeah.
so there hasn't been for 2 years. Is that funding cumulative?
No, it's not a cumulative.
So if you don't use it the first year,
Possible.
Councillor Goodwin?
Can you tell us when the 20,000 amount was last reviewed? Because I've got a recollection I was sitting about that maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Dave?
This year, It's gone to 25,000 for next year. So before that, no, you're right, it's had at 20,000 for a number of years.
Okay, further questions for Leanne? Yeah, Councillor Bowyer?
How come it wasn't used last year?
I don't know. I did hear COVID, but it was a couple of years ago.
Well, Councillor Bowyer, I think with your surprise, look, you'd be happy to move the recommendation.
Your Worship, there was government funding post-COVID that was allocated to Marai for their development, and our previous employee, Tia, assisted in getting those Marai developed and spending the government funding that was there, and the council stood back while that process was happening, and it didn't actively promote the Marai Development Fund that we had. That's pretty much the reason why we had it in the budget but didn't spend it.
Yeah, sure.
Just seems strange, it's not cumulative, because with all our other funding, it seems to be cumulative. It's not used in 1 year, it continues on. Or have I got that wrong?
No, that's right.
It has to be specifically identified as a need, and the need carries into the next year, and we make provision and carry it forward.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Leanne?
Probably a question for you, David. I'm just sort of wondering how it compares with funding for rural performance.
Each rural hall has a maintenance budget, but that's really just cleaning and power. The larger property budgets for re-roofing and significant work, I haven't got a handle on that in my head, but we would maintain those as required.
Yeah, Doug?
Yeah, I think this is I'm surprised, I hadn't seen it either when I was here, but that's okay, because we were in COVID times and Gabriel times and all the rest of it, but I think it's a really important policy to have, especially with what's going to happen with other weather events and the importance that Marai would have in recovery. We talked about it when Mark Mitchell was here, and I think it's really important to retain something like this and to embed it really as part and parcel of the council policies moving forward. Very much like the budget, I don't know what's going to happen.
Already done, so it's 10 years.
So no further questions, somebody prepared to read the recommendation? Well, Councillor Bowyer is on 417, I've got a seconder. Councillor Tuta, any further discussion? Put the motion, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you, Leanne. Okay, we now move to the agenda for the supplementary, the small page, the supplementary reports. And I'm going to have Karen Yates.
Is it reports?
This the one that's come out.
Another document.
You have to click on another document.
Sorry? Just close it.
Are you doing this, Karen?
Is it, Your Worship, the appointments to the Climate Advisory Group? Yes. There's a number of documents open on my laptop, including attachments. So yes, this is another straightforward report. It's simply seeking approval to appoint the Mayor to replace Councillor Helena on the Climate Advisory Group, and for Councillor Lennox to be appointed as an alternative if the Mayor cannot make that meeting. Also noting that a member of the group, Luther Taloa, has resigned from that group. The other item is seeking approval to appoint Councillor Holmes to the, and Mayor Capel to the...
No, I'm just changing that one. It's going to be Councillor Bowyer and Councillor Holmes.
Okay, we're proposing an amendment to that resolution.
Yeah, I've had a proposal.
Okay, then you're foreshadowing the amendment, thank you. It will be Councillor Bowyer and Councillor Holmes to the Water Resilience Strategy Interim Group.
Okay, everybody, with that alteration, that Councillor Bowyer replaces myself, is somebody prepared to move? Prepared, Councillor Holmes, second, Councillor Nelson.
Questions?
Oh, sorry, Tom, yep.
anyone got any questions?
Yeah, no, I do get one, but I just... Okay. Councillor Goodwin, do you have a question or a discussion?
Your question, the climate change one, we can go along if we're interested and welcome. Anyway, it's my understanding anyone who's not on it.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Is that the case? I'm not sure about it.
It's
That
not,
last one was certainly like that. Anyway.
it's not a committee. Councillors are entitled to attend any committee. You would need to seek permission of the chair from the advisory group to be able to speak at the meeting.
Okay, did we make the recommendations? I did. Holmes and Mr. Holmes and Councillor Holmes.
Just about.
Councillor Nelson, and we've got discussion?
Question.
Question?
Just want to answer Councillor Bogey's question. I was going to ask why am I no longer available? Essentially, I work 3 days a week in one job and 2 days a week in the other, and I mop up both in the weekend. And previously, I've only been able to get to one of these meetings, and I just felt I wasn't able to make a contribution because they were always on the days that I work my other job. I did ask, I asked Councillor Goodwin to step in for me, so I guess that's the answer to Councillor Bogey's question, but I guess the question to whoever put this forward is why wasn't Councillor Goodwin allowed to continue would be my question. The second question is did we ever meet with Luda Taloa? Because I know he met with me around some concerns around how that group was operating, and the council agreed to have that meeting. So did that meeting take place? And of course the question around Councillor Goodwin.
I can answer the one on Councillor Goodwin. That was my decision. Councillor went on the basis that I felt that as Mayor, one of the areas that I have not taken a lot of time to understand in the past is climate change, and I just felt this was an ideal opportunity for me to become more involved. It wasn't anything to do with, and as Councillor Goodwin says, he can come along anyway if he wants to come to this. So, I'm the first to admit that climate change isn't something that's rocked my hope, and I've really got to start working on that. So it was a good opportunity, and I've got to say the first meeting I went to, I was really impressed at the passion and the group. Mara was on the group, tremendous passion there, and we're going to try and from that meeting actually, we're going to try and get that group to be closer to the council if you like, and certainly in the long term plan to play a very big part, because they're looking to have a climate change lens across a lot of stuff that we do, and we're going to be discussing that through that group. So it wasn't anything to do with Councillor Goodwin's personality or whatever. It was just the fact that I felt that I'd like to be there. In terms of Luther Taloa, that's a work in progress. He's hard going to get hold of, but we will be talking to him for sure. Okay, move Councillor Holmes, second Councillor Nelson, all in favour, please say aye. Against. Thank you. We then go to the Chief Executive's report, page 423.
Thank you, Your Worship. I might just take the report as read in the interest of time today, but I'm very happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
Right, any questions for Kim on his report? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about the upcoming mandatory changes that government's going to put forward with regards to solid waste and organic recycling and things like that. I notice in there there's an opportunity with the other three councils with regards to a business case for an organic food waste processing plant. The other day, Mayor and myself met with the other mayors and deputy mayors and to discuss priorities for the region, which everybody had a different opinion. And we said we'd come back to our council and say, what do you think the priorities are regionally that we could be working together with the other two councils on? And to me, this is one of them. So I'd like to know what the time frame is for that, what the process might be for that, and how you will identify potential sites.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, it's been included as part of our local action plan with the other two councils. It's also part of the regional action plan. All of the action plans are going to be looking to be approved at the June meeting. We are currently also working with the other two councils in the Wairarapa to put in an application for MFE funding for a business case. I'm not quite sure where we are in the process yet, but we will be putting that application soon because it has to be also by June. So yes, we're all very keen to work in this area. It's an exciting area, and yeah, we're just going to get on.
Okay.
Councillor Leonard?
Yeah, being part of that, being a council rep on that committee, I'm kind of surprised to hear that they've made those decisions. The three councillors from South Wairarapa, Carterton and Masterton, we have been together and we have, I guess, lobbied council staff around being involved in those decisions. At this stage we are waiting, my understanding, for them to come up with a draft priorities list or draft report, and then we're going to collectively meet, have some discussions and then bring the focus back to council. But I think it's reasonable to share that we are all very keen to do something substantial collectively, as opposed to a series of small things that might take a lot of time and energy but not have a lot of bang for its buck. But again, that meeting hasn't taken place, so what you're saying is news to me.
Thank you, Councillor Lana. Any further questions for Kim? Councillor, sorry, Joe?
Getting to stand up.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
I just want to talk to the portion in your report around iwi relationships. And for the sake of planning for iwi, I would like to know whether or not the council would be an agreement with writing something a little bit more formal around the iwi representative role positions on the council into the future, including the remuneration of those positions as well. What it does is it gives you a surety that you will get people here. It will give iwi surety to the clean to make sure that the right people are here, not just, let's go grab Jo because she's free, and that you get the quality of advice from iwi that you seek. So I just want to kind of add that to the iwi relationships section on the report for consideration of this council in the next training.
Thank you, Joe. We'll do that certainly.
Good point, Joe. Okay, any further questions? Somebody prepared to move that we receive the report. Thank you, Councillor Lena. Seconded, Councillor Goodwin. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. Okay, meeting reports from councillors. We have Stella, David and Bex. Go on that order. Stella, David and Bex.
Cool, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Just a few quick updates from me. So I am the co-chair of the Refugee Steering Group. We meet every month, and we've been, Immigration New Zealand have been very kind in opening up some funding for meaningful refugee participation, local funding initiative. That's going to be national, but we have the opportunity to apply for up to $30,000 to develop some initiatives around supporting our current refugees that are living in our area, which is great because that sort of rolls back to our purpose, I guess, as a group now, because we've got the steering all set up and it's all working really well. So now it's all about integration of the people into the community and building them and strengthening the connection. So it's perfect timing. So we're looking forward to seeing what we come up with within our working group on how we're going to spend that funding once we receive it, which is really exciting. And the IFCA celebrations are on tomorrow night down at the Rec Centre, and we've got so far over 100 RSVPs, so that's the celebration at the end of the fasting. So I'll be attending that, which will be really, really great. There's some really positive outcomes coming from the steering group currently, which is really good. Youth Council, so a really strong group of youth that sit underneath our larger council umbrella, which is wonderful. They're busy preparing to attend the Festival of the Future, which is in June. We've also got a small group that helped around the Summer Hammer concert, which was really great. They ran the merchandise tent, and also on Whānau Day, they've got some really good thoughts and ideas that they want to put forward into their consultation document for long-term plans. So that's really, really good. Not that I'm on this group as an official councillor, but I just think given the public interest, I would like to give the community an update on Kim's Way, the night shelter, which the councillors attended the other day. Thank you for coming to have a look. We're 70% there, and we aim to be open during July. There's just a few small sort of building compliance hurdles we've got to get through, but we're very close. We've had huge support from our local police backing us up, and they're going to be very much part of the journey for the small community group that's part of getting this up and running. So currently, you may or may not know, but we've got 15 extreme homeless that are out on the streets at the moment, so pretty tough given the winter's just around the corner. But just want to actually mention Tiawhina Community Hub, because we, the small committee for Kim's Way, are sitting under the umbrella of them being a charitable organisation, so without them we wouldn't be doing this. So big thank you to them for all their support. And that's me today.
Thank you very much, Dara. Dara, on behalf of my other councillors, I know that you're representing us, but in terms of the Youth Council and the other things that you do, you're doing a terrific job leading the refugee side of it. I mean, I've been at those meetings, and thanks for what you're doing. It's great. I know they absolutely love you still. So
it's a pleasure. I enjoy it.
Okay, David.
I just, on Sunday I attended the AGM of the Castle Point Ratepayers. It was, as usual, it was a very good, well-run meeting with over 40 people at it, actually. So I just got a headline, a few things that came up. The first thing that came up was a recognition of thanks to Masterton District Council and Higgins for all the work they did through Gabrielle. That's the second time we heard it. Craig and I heard it at Riversdale, and we heard it again the other day. So could you please pass on to the boys that did all the work? It was very much appreciated from the people out there. There's a lady out there called Helen. Castle Point seems to be, the community seems to be run by about 3 people. And they all were very vocal the other night, so it's quite easy here. There's a lady called Helen Welsh who has, lives out there permanently, and she does a lot of work, and she's concerned about the disabled area around the toilets. And as you can appreciate, with all the sand building up over the years, council's done a good job with paths, but with the sand creeping in and the grass creeping over, the paths getting narrower. So we need to address that problem there. Another concern was the disabled doors, and I've lost it. The disabled doors at the toilets, and it's not a big job, but I've suggested yesterday that perhaps I could go out with some couple of officers and meet with a few of these people out there just to look at these few problems. There's a lot of angst against DOC. DOC making big promises but not honouring the promises, and it's mainly regarding signs and general maintenance. So I think a conversation with DOC and would be appropriate at some time just to tidy that up. There's a generator out there for bad occasions after big storms, and it seems to have been done locally, and council officers don't know a lot about it, so they're going to get back to us. John Keen's another one of the people that seems to run it out there. He will be getting in touch with there. David, remember when we went out a few years ago, they asked us about buildings, several buildings on one time? That's come up again. And Brendan Carroll's asked a question, I don't think you about it.
Councillor, I'm aware if someone's got a home and a holiday badge on the same title, they have 2 sets of uniform charges. So that will be what he's on about.
Yeah, he said he sent you an email or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Freedom camping is a concern, and I suggested that perhaps the Council Port Station could allow paddock to be used for freedom camping, but Emily really jumped down the throat over that. There's no way in hell she's going to have that happening out there. But I still think Council needs to look at something which is along the lines of Riversdale, freedom camping. Because I was out there one night, well, we had the meeting AGM after Anzac Day a few years ago, and the number of camper vans across the lagoon was just, I just could not believe it. I sort of, the tide comes in, she's going in for a cricket tonight, so people will sort it up. Adele's been asked just to contact Stu Warm with regards to native plantings out there. The two problems out there seem to be wilding pines and rats. There's been a huge inundation of rats out there, but I must say that it's a well-run organisation and they were very positive and it was nice to be there.
Thank you, David. And then we have Bex.
And just on David's point about the freedom campers, it might be worth the Residents Ratepayers Association contacting NZMCA, you know, directly.
Yeah.
Because they initiated the one at Colombo and also the Riversdale one.
It brings up another point too with regards to the Morley Park, because Morley Park seems to be empty. And I know there's a lot of people going to the one in Red Star, so yeah.
I'm just going to report on two of my committees today. One is the Wairarapa Youth Governance one, which I touched on when Scott was here. Sorry, I didn't get back to you. So that's a council initiative that working alongside child and youth groups and services to provide local solutions for problems and issues in our community rather than relying on agencies or long waiting lists. We identify and present local cases each meeting, so these are families and individuals who need intervention or help, and then around the group we allocate responsibility and next steps based on those individual needs. We found previously that the agencies weren't talking to each other, and also things were getting lost in the systems and things would just go on to a list. So these are real people that are dealing with them. You know, we work with police, OT, childcare centres, TFNA, local groups, and then they say we've got a family who's at risk. And it's a really good feeling to be. It's quite depressing at times, honestly, the information that comes through, but it's a really good feeling to feel that locally you can make a difference. So we've had some early successes with helping people into counselling, medical care, housing and parenting programs, so that's a good start. And what we're working on now is on systems and processes to keep the information and the case details safe and secure. And I just want to congratulate Kelsey from NBC on the work that she's been doing to facilitate those meetings. And the other one is the Pacifico Wairarapa Trust. I'll just do some highlights for them from the last meeting. They've just awarded $20,000 worth of scholarships to local Pacifico students at each of the colleges in Wairarapa for future tertiary education. They've assisted families, a dozen families with stationery and uniforms for the new term. They've assisted 2 students to attend courses by giving them computers. They've just created a community garden at Pacifica Trust grounds, which the Lighthouse Church provided the space for. And Victoria University is using Pacifica Trust as a case study for the Pacifica work in a provincial community because it's been so successful. And they're planning a Pacifica homework program for years 7 to 10 students, which is being funded by Trustlands Trust, and that'll start in the second term. And finally, they hosted an RSE and Migrant Workers Pacifica Christmas lunch, which was a huge success and had more than 50 people attend that. That's me. Thank you
very much, Bex. Just while I'm giving compliments, chairing that youth governance group is a hell of a big job too, and Bex probably underrates yourself a bit there. Is when you're dealing, and I sit in on these meetings, when you're dealing with so many social service organisations who so many years haven't really talked to each other or worked with each other, and suddenly they're all in there in the same room on the same page, it's pretty amazing to watch. It really is.
Thanks, Gary.
So thank you for that. Okay, that's the councillors' reports. I'll keep the mayoral's verbal very short. The highlight for me since the last meeting has been the naming of Bob Francis as the winner of the 2024 Senior New Zealand of the Year Award, which we had quite a part to play in this nomination. Bob, as you know, was had 7 successive terms as mayor, which I think was a record for New Zealand at the time, actually. And he's done, I mean, I'm not going to read the list of things he's done, but things like he's been chair of the Car Board, Wings Over Wairarapa DHB, he's the ambassador for the Wellington Free Ambulance New Build, he's leading the group which is doing the National Aviation Centre. He's just done countless hours and years of outstanding community service, and then of course in his sport he was the world's top ranked rugby referee at one stage. He was a referee's assessor at Rugby World Cups, and then he got involved in football and looked after with the Wairarapa United team for quite some years. So he's done a tremendous amount for the district, and I think it's not only the fact that it's great for Bob. I think this award is actually great for Masterton and great for the district, and council is at the moment in the process of recognising it at a function alongside Trust House, and we'll be giving details of that. Councillors will be invited to that, and there'll be quite a crowd there, and so we will recognise that as a community as well. The only other thing I'll mention is the Kim and I were at a mayoral forum in the Hut last week, where Simeon Brown and Chris Bishop, who are 2 of the leading lights in the national government, were there. Much of the discussion there was around 3 waters, regional deals and reorganisation. And it's very clear that the government wants councils to sort out their priorities in each of those topics. It's fair to say that the delivery of the water services was front and centre of the discussions, and it's pretty much watch this space right now, as we heard today in what's happening. It was interesting that on reorganisation, amalgamation, or whatever you like to call it, the ministers were very clear that the government won't be forcing councils to do anything anytime soon. And if councils want to go down that path, then they need to lead the process themselves. They're not going to jump in and tell us what to do. So, and I got the feeling that whilst the Wellington councils are talking amongst themselves about reorganisation, the water's certainly taken over as the main topic for councils now, and that's what we're looking at. So I'll leave that there for I've been to plenty of other meetings, but those were the 2 main things. So that's my report, and that takes us in now. Could somebody move we go into public excluded?
Let's move the report first.
Oh, move the what?
No, receives the mayor report.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay. Somebody prepared we move the mayor report. Thank you, David. Second. All those in favour? Please say aye. Aye. I just heard that Harriet had her hand up. That's why that was done. Then okay. Somebody move to go to public excluded. Stella. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Johnson. All in favour? Thank you. Go to page